Hi, my name's Dhee, your professor of woo-woo, and welcome to Sunchild Tarot. And I have a special guest with me today, renowned, well, to give you the bio, Necole. Necole, say hello. This is Necole, everyone. This is Necole Stephens with a very impressive bio. So, internationally renowned spirit medium and intuitive coach and mentor. One of the 25 selected as the most inspiring Facebook page, but more importantly, serving as a, how do you put it, a spiritual conduit between the physical world and the afterlife. Now, you're not the first medium on the channel, so I hope that doesn't sound wrong. I could make a horrible tokenistic phrase as if to say some of my best friends are mediums, which is true. But so Necole, how did you get into this stuff? What happened? What's your origin story?
I don't have a big, elaborate story. I know a lot of people do. I don't. I grew up in a family that my grandmother was very gifted. I don't like to really use that term because I feel like we're all gifted, but my grandmother was really in tune with her intuition, and she called it premonitions. She was, from a different era, so she didn't have all of the knowledge, I guess, that we have now. She was very just matter of fact. And my great grandmother read a deck of cards. So they weren't tarot cards, they were just a plain deck of cards. So I grew up around that. So I don't have a really great story about it. So it was just very matter of fact. I always knew things since I was younger that I shouldn't have known. And then when I was 30, my younger brother passed away unexpectedly, and it really opened doors for me in the respect that I wanted to pursue it more. At first, I was very afraid or timid to let people kind of know that I believed in something so much bigger than just here. I didn't know what people would think. And slowly I started to tell people, and I don't know, it just spread from there.
Do you find it's certainly a gift that the more you use it, the more, like a muscle, the more you use it, the more honed it becomes. But I noticed in your writings that you say you was aware. I mean, a lot of us, I think, are aware of small children, but you were very aware of small children, of the people who didn't have bodies who were wandering through the house and things like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I didn't forget that.
So you bill yourself as an intuitive coach and spiritual mentor. What does that actually mean?
So basically, from all of my time doing readings, I spent a lot of years doing readings. And the one thing that was really consistent to me is that Spirit always came through talking about their memories and like their happy times. They never really came through telling me about their problems. And, they weren't complaining when they came through. They were reminding their loved ones of the good times that they shared. And so it can become very sad working with grief. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, I'm sure you are, but I was also grieving. My 11-year-old son had passed away unexpectedly in 2010. So I was living grief at home, and then I was working with grieving people, and it became a little bit heavy. I almost couldn't separate it anymore. And so I just felt very pulled to help people live. And so I didn't really know what to do with that in the beginning. And then I just started to follow inspired action. And essentially what I do today is I don't really do readings anymore, but I help women primarily. So if they have a goal in life, it can be happiness, it can be something, a career, it can be something materialistic, it can be a relationship, it can be a pregnancy, whatever their goal is. In order to achieve the goal, we have to be aligned with it. So I help women become aligned with the goal to achieve their goals so that they are living their best life, so that when they do cross, they're going to have these beautiful stories to share with their family, So instead of connecting here to the afterlife, I'm doing it here. So for the future mediums in the world, they're going to have people that have crossed over that have really lived and enjoyed life. I mean, it's heavy here. It can be, right?
Mm-hmm. Especially at the minute.
Mm-hmm. And so it's really important that we remember that we have control over our lives, because we feel very disempowered a lot of the time. And so it's really embodying that power again and stepping into our truths and what feels good to us, and creating, the boundaries and all the things that we need in order to live a really good life.
Do you find the spirits, I mean, being a medium, do you find that the spirits are often sort of nudging you, going, tell them this, tell them that?
Not so much.
More
I
technique.
have a really good discipline with it. I always have since I got older. It was very much 9 to 5 kind of. So they knew when I was on and knew when I was off. And I was really, really diligent about that. And when I'm working with someone privately now, I'm still doing it intuitively. So I'll start leading into a certain direction, and it may seem completely crazy to them for a second, but then it will reveal why we're going that way. But I won't even know half the time.
So what sort of techniques do you use with people? Because looking at your blog writings, you do some beautiful work about the law of attraction and how positive thinking can how eradicate, I don't want to say it that way because, and because you know the question, I warned you in advance what the questions were, but
Yes.
how negative thinking can defeat us. We all know that one person who's a negative Nelly and they're miserable and they work really hard to remain that way. And so trying to shift yourself out of those habits is a really important skill. I notice you've written on some highly specific detail on this. Do you want to say?
So I'm actually not a positive thinking person. Like I am, but I'm not all about positive thinking and everything's cheerful and happy. I believe we can't lie to ourselves and we can't try to trick ourselves, because that's just BS. Like it's not going to work. And you'll actually create a lot of resistance, and you'll create the opposite in your world. And so I definitely am not one of those that, just everything's great and happy. No. But is what I do believe is that I like to call myself a perspective shifter. That's my new title. I do believe that we can shift our perspective slightly on things in order to have better feeling thoughts, so that, I don't know, say it's raining and it's gloomy and all of the things, and that's typically where your mind is going. Well, there's a way that you can shift that into something that feels a little bit better. Like, yeah, it is raining today. I acknowledge that. I'm not denying that. It doesn't mean it's going to rain forever, every single day. It's just raining today. And like, even something as small as that, it's raining today. It's okay, and reminding myself it's not going to rain every single day forever and ever. And if it does, I'll deal with it then, things of that nature. So it's not tricking yourself. It's not lying to yourself. It's not just getting positive. It's too far of a gap for most of us. We can't just say I'm wealthy all day long if we don't believe it. But we can say that I have food today. We can say that I have a roof over my head today. And if you can't say those things, what can you say? Maybe you have a coat on. Maybe you don't have a roof over your head, but you have a coat. I can tell you for myself, it's kind of like, it's public now and somewhat of a joke, but for a really long time, I couldn't find anything to be positive about, or I couldn't find the good in anything or the better feeling in anything. And so what I did was I journal every day. I talked about my pen, God as my witness, for like months. I talked about how much I loved my pen. It was the only thing I could plug into that I was so fortunate I actually could write. I love my pen. You know what? Sometimes you're in bed and you're miserable, but you love your bed and you love your pillow and you love your comforter because it's nurturing and secure and keeps you safe and hidden from the entire world. That's a better feeling thought than I'm staying in bed all day because I hate my world. You're just kind of shifting it to the, well, why do you want to stay in bed? You feel safe. You feel comfortable. You feel cuddled. You feel held in your blankets. So that's what I do. Essentially, I'm just kind of shifting it to why we're doing the thing and how it feels to us, like in that moment.
That's quite interesting because I'm seeing two techniques going on at the same time there. One, I mean, obviously it falls under the whole, what is it? Attitude is gratitude, gratitude is the attitude, whatever that phrase is.
Yeah.
It falls under looking for the gift. But it
Mhm.
sounds like you're also leading someone to a point of self-honesty where
Mhm.
they go, I can't feel good about that. I can feel good about this, but no, not at the minute, no.
Because it's really important. Our emotional intelligence is so important for our growth and evolution. And so when we're in a place of denying our truth, we're now not only denying our truth and attracting unwanted experiences into our lives, but now there's a whole other thing going on. Now we're pushing down how we feel. So now we have all of these unprocessed emotions, which leads to a whole different area, you know?
Yeah.
So while I'm doing this, it's not just about feel better, get all the things you want, but you're actually processing how you feel. Because here's the thing, you can feel anything you want and you're allowed to, and that's your birthright. And you should be honoring that, you know, like we go through so many different feelings and so many just I want to say like versions of ourselves,
Hmm.
and we try to disconnect from them rather than honoring who we were at that person. We needed to be that person at some time, you know, at that time in our lives. Like there was a point in my life where I was a very passive aggressive friend. That was my way of keeping myself safe. Did I go about it the rest, you know, the best way? No. But it was all I knew at that time. So I'm not going to push it away. I'm going to acknowledge it and still love that piece of me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you mean about the emotion because double water sign here. So there's Pisces Sun, Cancer Moon. I can feel a whole spectrum of emotions and then get really defensive about it at the same time.
Yeah.
There's, but like I said, the articles of yours that I read, beautiful, coming from a magical perspective, how you are tying the concepts between how you get emotional reactions to certain things and how you load comments in your mind. I was reading your one about the, I think I've still got it up here, about the I want to lose weight. Was it
Oh,
the
yeah.
I attract this? And how even the phrases like I am losing weight right now get tangled up in all different sorts of emotions and what kind of, don't worry, we got one. Is where you can get those what starts as a wonderful sort of like self-hypnotic suggestion or programming your mind and all of the whether you want to look at it as subliminals or self-hypnosis or NLP or what have you, but it gathers moss.
Mhm.
There's I really liked the clarity in which you've described that gathering moss process. It's almost like you're always trying to stay one step ahead of the mess that your emotions are coming after you like a tumbleweed. It's let's see if we can just mess this bit up, you know.
Because we're really good at that, right? We're like really
Yeah.
good at just spiraling the opposite way instead of like reeling it back in. And you know what? I'm doing better and better every day. And you know, it's getting a little bit easier, and I'll watch, you know, what I'm eating at this moment, or I'll do something that feels good to my body and not forcing ourselves to do it. Because again, when we force ourselves, we create resistance. It's not that we actually, usually it's not whatever the thing is that we have a problem with. I mean, we kind of do, but where the real problem comes in is we resist doing it. So we've built up this whole other thing, you know, that's the part that feels so uncomfortable.
Actually, that's a really interesting thought because the minute you use the word resistance, I think immediately of exercise and where you are actually using resistance to gain strength against pushing against something. But if you are pushing against the same old thing rather than just turning around, walking off and going to have a nice thing over there,
See,
it's
the
like,
thing is, we live in an all-inclusive universe. We try to exclude everything. It doesn't work that way. because this universe is all inclusive. It includes everything. So the second we try to not, I don't want to exercise, it doesn't work. However, if you said, I lose weight, whether I exercise or not, you've just included it. There's no resistance there, and you'll lose weight. As long as you believe it,
Now there's an interesting, because you've mentioned about attracting things in, and like I was saying, a lot of what you've discussed about is how your emotional state affects the ability to attract events to you. But one thing that worries me with the law of attraction and the way it's been pushed, especially since The Secret, and there was another one, wasn't there? I can't remember what it was, but that sort of era, was that it can get considered the be all and end all when we're in a co-creating universe. Because there is an astrologer who I watch here on YouTube called Raza Lila Healing, and one of his issues is with what he sees as a law of attraction, positive thinking, dominated philosophy being present in what, as he calls it, the New Age movement. It can be very ableist because it's not allowing for, some things are just going to happen. If you have got a flood coming, or a meteor is going to fall out the sky, or there's a fire coming across the forest towards you, the only power you've got is, are you there at the time? Or can you get away from there as quickly as possible? What do you think about, do you think the law of attraction can be discussed too much, or are the therapeutic benefits of it outweighing the potential dangers of it?
I don't think there's anything dangerous, because we're always doing it regardless or not. So there's a couple of things that I would say. The first thing is, I don't believe we can control our reality. I believe we create it, co-create it, right? So we can't control every single thing that happens. The second thing is, we can control us, which means we also have control over our emotions. So as far as anything external, I wouldn't touch anything out there, because that's not my business. Here's my business, right? So how does this pertain to all of that? So if I live in fear of everything, and I'm chronically in fear of driving and going outside, or whatever the things are, so do I have control over what happens out there? No, but where the law of attraction, which I don't personally even use that, but I will for the sake of the conversation.
Okay, how would you call it? How would you term it?
I just life, because I think we're doing it regardless.
Okay.
So it sounds so cliche, like law of attraction or manifest. I don't even like using the word manifesting.
Yeah.
But so okay, how am I going to connect this in? Okay. So whatever I'm feeling, my emotion is my vibration that I'm sending out into the world. So therefore, I'm just going to end up in situations to make me feel more of whatever that is that I feel, because vibrationally, my frequency is plugging in all over the place. So if I live in fear, I'm going to happen to be where that meteor is, because I'm a vibrational match with it, not because I called it in, not because I have any control over anything out there, but because that's where my frequency is. So it's going to keep putting me in situations that match where I'm at. It's not whether it's good or bad. Nobody's saying anything about that. We've attached fear is bad, right? And I say this with such love, and I say, I would never say anything with ill intentions when it comes to someone passing away, but we have attached that as a bad thing, right? Because we attach it like it happened to us, and they were taken away from us. And I 150% can understand why it would feel like that, but it's really not about us. It's really about them and their journey. Mm-hmm. And we're just kind of, the co-creators in it all. And so there are many people that celebrate the passing of somebody, right? So it's all about our perspective and what we've attached to the different things. Maybe somebody feels really lucky if a meteor falls on them. Like who's to say they don't? That could be a beautiful experience for someone, I remember a while ago so when I actually got the two dogs, one of them that was just barking, they kept going to the bathroom all over my house. They were peeing everywhere. And I was like, how am I going to find something like, I don't know how to shift this. I was just getting in my own way. And then I was kind of thinking about it, and I was thinking how, well, why is it actually so bad? Well, because it's gross and it smells gross. And I was thinking of all the gross things, right? But as I was doing it, I started laughing about it because I'm like, just writing everything down. And I was able to shift my perspective on it and start laughing and like imagine like people coming over. I'm like, don't mind the rug. Dogs keep peeing everywhere. And so this was just a little conversation I was having in my own mind. Within like a day, and I'm telling you, I swear to you, like they stopped going in the house. It was just like I shifted my mindset around it. I shifted my perspective, and like all of a sudden things shifted. Do you know what I mean? So I only had control over me. I couldn't control. I mean, I was taking them outside. I was doing all the things. It just wasn't going the way I chose to have it go. But again, I can't control external things, only in here. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
in a way, yes. I mean, on a personal level, yes, but also in a way for, say, when, I mean, I'm looking into astrology. There's patterns that we get offered to walk down or not, I think is a nice way to sum up what astrology can offer. There's certain, it's not directions, it's just a map and you can wander where you want in it, but there's certain, it will say here be monsters and here be a forest. But there's certain things that we don't have power over because of the very point, like you say, we co-create. We are never an entirely independent unit. I mean, especially if you look at the holographic universe model, or take the idea that we're all little bits of God, which I totally agree with, but I cannot say it other than in a sarcastic fashion. It's not just us. It's you, whether you look at it as it's you and it's other people. I tend towards animism, so it's me and all the other people and all the spirits around me and the spirits of the planets and the angels and the this and the that and the other. There's so sometimes I worry that there can be a guilt that gets attached to people who dive into the law of attraction without being exposed to other teachings that are out there, such as the getting into harmony with spirit and say like many of the native teachings that are out there, and can then fall into a trap of blaming themselves even more.
But I think that there's already something before that. Do you know what I mean? Like if they're already going to blame themselves, there was something before they got into that would already had, again, it's going to go with how they're feeling. They're going to attract more experiences. That's where the co-creation part of it is. So we're going to say, I don't know, the astrology is Mercury retrograde, right? So like Mercury is retrograde. And I don't know what,
yeah, it's coming up.
There's poor communication. Yeah, isn't it like in September, right? Yeah. So now that's happening. And then they've made a plan to travel. I'll use that because I know, isn't travel something that's affected by that?
Yeah.
Okay. So now there's the airport, and now there's another piece of it. So now the airport's having whatever issues, right? Mercury's retrograde. That's where like that comes into it. So now they're having difficulties over here. Well, now I'm having in my own life challenges. I'm kind of in a dark place, all of the things. So this airline is having a bunch of challenges. That airline is not affected. I don't know any of this, right? Yeah. But I'm going to, my vibration's going to go either into the one that's having all of the issues, or it's going to go into that other airport or airline that's having none. Do you know what I mean? So there's other factors, but I can only, right now, I only know about myself. I don't know what's going on out there and how we're all getting drawn together. So that's how I connect them all. And so I want my vibration to be as clean as possible. So I get pulled into the airlines that I have the least problems during like Mercury, you know? So that's in my control, how I feel. So my vibration is clean and going to go into whatever area. So with that person who's now blaming themselves, I would have to say, like, to that person, well, there would be a lot of things I would say, because I feel like we're always where we're meant to be.
I mean, yeah, I agree. The first thing I would say is pack it in, you know, is for the blaming bit.
Yeah, like there's just no room for self-blame. You're exactly where you're meant to be, and there's opportunities there. I mean, I find so many opportunities in my obstacles. You know, I wouldn't know if I ever made progress if I didn't have any obstacles to see if I respond differently to them. Because again, it's all about me and my perspective. And so, am I the same person always, or am I changing? How would I know? I have to be presented with something in order for me to have a different answer or a different something.
Now, there's, I mean, on technicalities, I think I agree with pretty much everything you say. I struggle with the vibration argument when you look at events like, well, now was it 2006, the tsunami? Yeah, and there's an earth change. And then I'm not sure that really, however, that was the Mother Earth wanted to do something. And so we're just tiny little flames of feeling
Correct.
to that.
But then why, and I say this again with such love, I don't say anything to like start anything. That's definitely not my nature. But why were some people totally fine and others weren't?
So I have a few issues with this comment. So stay tuned to the end of the video to hear my thoughts about this. Now that I can agree with as well on a technical level, yeah.
You know, like, why does the one person walk away with having a stubbed toe, we'll say, out of a catastrophe, even what's going on in the world now? So I have a process that I actually use. And when I go, I don't have it up on my board. I usually have it up there. But so I have a process that I go through, and when you see it all laid out, which I'm happy to do it at a different time, because I know, like, for time's sake,
Yeah.
I'm more than like happy to show you it.
We should do that sometime.
But you can see like why there is so much fear in the world and how that would attract in fearful experiences, right? Like it's just going to, if we're all collectively like sending out this fearful energy, and then what's happening, we're becoming more fearful because of it, and more fearful, like it's just building, we're giving it so much momentum. And then we're like, there's just been so many different areas that there was enough fear that we've created a catastrophe, literally, you know, and we're creating more of them. But again, it's that co-creation of things are getting stirred up vibrationally all around. And I don't know astrology that well. I can't speak for that, but I'd be curious to see what's going on with that as well, because that has to be I mean, I believe they're all connected. So there has to be a tie for that.
Yes, there is. At the moment, Saturn Uranus square, and last year, the great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. People were talking about 2020, for example, way back. There was one French astrologer, I think he was in the 60s, André Barbeau, turned around and just wrote in one of his books, there's going to be a plague in 2020. You know, so
I mean, yes, I've seen that. I've read those things. That I didn't read that one specifically, but yes, I believe that.
Yeah, people have been talking about 2020 for years. But interesting that you say, because also that leads me on to my next tough question, because you know what's coming, about the amplification of fear. Because, I mean, you have, tell me for a moment, this sounds like I'm setting you up, but folks, she knows the question that's coming, okay? So I'm not setting her up. You were one of the 25 selected as most inspiring Facebook pages. Tell me about that. Who selected you?
I don't even, it was so long ago. I don't even. I think if you click
just
on the link
or something, or
I don't remember. It was so many years ago, but I think if you clicked it, it brings you to wherever it goes.
Right.
I don't have a good answer. I don't remember. I'm like 99% if you just click it. I didn't just like write it up there.
Now, I will be leaving the link for Nicole's website down below and for the Facebook page. And it is good reading the Facebook page because I had a good scan, especially after reading a sales comment like that. It's like, well, I better go and have a look. But we're all well aware at the moment as well of the power of the algorithm within social media. Now, we are both about to be complete hypocrites. Here I am having my channel on YouTube and you with your Facebook page, but the YouTube algorithm and the Facebook algorithms can be a little bit scary at times, as you were saying, that urge to feel more fear.
See, I don't pay attention to any of those things. I never have. And truthfully, when I didn't even know what an algorithm was, my page was so busy. Like I remember having like 750 likes and shares. And if you go back, you'll see that like they were ridiculously crazy. I am like so oblivious to a lot of things, which one of them would be algorithms. I believe that our energy overrides everything. It wouldn't make sense. Like the universe isn't going to go, well, there's an algorithm, so we're going to prevent things from moving forward. I think it's there, but I think it still comes down to us and our energy of whether or not we're going to attract people into our page, because that would be saying that there's an outside force controlling us. I don't believe anyone controls us but us.
Now, I'm with you. I am not a conspiracy nerd or anything like that. There's, I have a knee-jerk reaction against it. The moment people start talking about New World Order and Illuminati, I'm out the door. But there is still, Facebook is designed to make you spend time on Facebook, and YouTube is designed to make you spend time on YouTube so that you get exposed to the advertising. And there's more natural but greedy. Greedy is okay. Wanting business viability, I suppose, is another way of putting it. But basically, it's monopolizing. And you write that you can go from a couple of clicks, and then suddenly the algorithm will say, "Oh, you like this sort of stuff," and it might not be the same sort of stuff as what you was initially aiming for. And I think that this is something that isn't, I can't argue with your vibration argument, but I can say that there are equally strong vibrations out there trying to beam, and not from shape-shifting reptilians or Illuminati, but just computer programs that go, oh, we want to show you your advertising. If we show you this, you're going to want to.
How do you know that it's not you? I think that that's where the fine line comes in. There's like these nuances, because okay, we'll talk about roller skates right now, right? We're talking about roller skates, and I love roller skating. I actually bought a pair of roller skates, and I bought a pair of roller blades, and I have all the pads. So I'm putting all this energy right now into roller skates because I love roller skates. I can feel it now. I have the emotion because I can just feel myself roller skating, and I love it. So guess what? I guarantee when we both hang up with this and we go on Facebook, there's going to be roller skates popping up everywhere, right? Yeah. And so I've heard, I don't watch TV, like very, very rarely. So I've heard people say like Big Brother is in the room or something. I've never watched the show. I don't know anything about it, or that like the government's watching us. But my answer to that is we just attracted it into us. There's no, like, again, we're co-creating. So there's people out there advertising for roller skates. We're a vibrational match, at least I am in this moment, for roller skates. Therefore, I'm going to see it in my feed. You know what I mean? So that's how I connect it all. Whether or not it's accurate, that's my belief on it. Because that's...
You could certainly say the algorithm is helping support your way of looking at things there. So
but I'm still not giving any credit to anyone outside of me. I'm just saying there's an algorithm, and there's a roller skate company that's doing wonderful marketing, and there's a vibration on the algorithm, and there's a vibration on this roller skating company, because there's several roller skating companies, but I keep seeing one consistently. Why that one? Whatever my vibration is, it's just going to plug into all of that now. And I've just co-created in my newsfeed a bunch of roller skates. So that's how I connect all of the dots to it all.
Right. There's, I mean, I'll be doing a show sometime soon with an astrologer about, and you may be right. Maybe I'm being fearful. Maybe I'm the one sending out some fearful vibes. But I mean, I come from a political background. So I'm used to standing up and going rah, 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 rah about something and trying to get people motivated to take communal action. And that's a vibe that I want to, there's no point me trying to do it on our own. Come on, everybody, let's do it together sort of vibe is the one that I'm wanting to send out. So I think I don't think our two ways of looking at it are mutually exclusive. It's just two completely different languages of describing the same thing.
Can I just add something into that? So here's what I think tends to happen is that, so say you're the rally, right? You're the one that's like getting everyone together, you're rallying all the people, but then there's people that they're back and forth, right? So they're like, all right, maybe this guy's onto something. And then somebody else is like, yeah, I definitely think he is. And then somebody else is like, well, she believes it, so I'm going to just go along with it. Those aren't pure vibes going into it. There's a lot of wobble there.
Yeah.
So and so then the wobbles from everyone, but there are several that are super like, yeah, they're like all for it with you, right? Then there's these wobblies because maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Or that's where things aren't moving and shifting the way you might think so. To say like, well, maybe, like there's something else going on, because it's that there's not pure intention in there. There's wobble. And when we wobble, things come out exactly what our truth is. It's the uncertainty or the fear or the other things, I feel like nothing's definite. So I don't even look for like that black and white. I go, oh, this feels good. I'm rolling with that.
I mean, there's a huge emphasis in the way that you're looking at things, which I don't disagree with. I mean, coming from a magical background, of course we create everything. But there's levels and levels of us that are creating as well. The conscious mind is 10% of the mind, and then you've got the subconscious and the unconscious, and then you've got your higher self and your angelic self and your holy guardian angel and your more demonic forms and your pain body and etheric bodies. And there's so many, it's hard to be aware of every single point on that entire scale. So sometimes, as much as I agree with all the vibration stuff, we're locked into 3D while we're here. So there's some ways we can deal with it internally, and sometimes dealing with it externally is dealing with it internally, because you are making that effort to move and do something. So if the Hermetic phrase, as within, so without, right, changes can go both ways. Change something outside to change something inside, because by you trying to change something outside, you will reflect that within yourself, because you're the one making the effort to do it.
But there's something has to already change inside. Like I'm I went to school for psychology, and that's like subconscious mind is like my thing. I should have been like a neuroscientist, but so when you're talking about like the conscious mind and the subconscious is always going to create. And so it depends if that intention is pure when you do it, but if it's not pure and you're just doing it to do, like, we can't say to the outside, you change so I feel better. You know what I mean? You change so I do better. You change so we can't manipulate out here in order to feel it in here, to get our needs met in here. And so I think that, I don't know, my belief on all of that is like, you'd have to change your subconscious before that's going to happen.
Now I would, the language that you just used, I would echo 100%. because coming from the magical perspective, intent is everything. And yes, if your intent is pure, and one can argue from the example that I just gave, you're trying to change something externally with a pure intent. Well, that pure intent is the change within anyway. So it's all part of a
But is it so? Are you trying to change? I'm just asking, not like, but I mean, so are you, this is good. Are you trying to change it though as a means to an end?
Everything's a means to an end, though, really, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, what would you say? Okay, so if everything is about our own creation, so then how is there anything that isn't a means? How is there any action that is taken which is not a means to an end? Whether it's me getting up and walking over there to close the curtains, or me wanting to create a change within myself or in the world around me, or at least in my world around me, all of that is you're doing something to achieve something.
Correct.
And so, I mean, even working to go through all your feelings, that's still the working through and going through all your feelings and going, oh, this one's nice and this one's poo and I need to work on that one, is still a means to an end, surely.
It is still a means to an end. But I guess when I think of a means to an end, I'm thinking of more, if I do this, I'll get that. So, and I understand what you're saying. If I'm walking across the room, I'll get the water, but it's the intention, like I'm getting the water. How I get it is irrelevant. Yeah. But if I walk over there to get the water, now there's a means to, I'm going to get up and walk over there to get the water versus I'm getting the water. I don't know how, I'm just getting it. So that would be my intention. I'm getting the, I have the water. It doesn't matter to me how I'm getting it. To me, I feel like there's no means to an end to that.
I think we're saying the same thing in two different languages.
Are we?
Yeah, because the way you were saying it just then, I was like, now, so I want to go over there and close the blinds because nighttime is coming. Am I going over there as a means to an end to close the blinds, or am I wanting to be in a room where the blinds are closed? It's the
right.
It's the same distinction, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, right. There's nuances. I told you, it's always nuances.
We have talked for ages already. So, what projects have you got coming up? Because I want to draw this one to a close, and then we're going to have to do this again. So we can both go and revise our own personal languages of describing.
Yes, we're going to go figure out
arguments where we're agreeing with one another. This
is fun.
So, what projects you got coming up?
So I have, what do I have going on? I have Soul Codes, which is 11 days of soul codes for business. So that's exciting. That starts, well, I'm kind of tentative on the date. I was going to start at September 27th, but we might be moving the date. So I might be shifting that. And then I have Embodiment Inner Circle, which that is my weekly membership. And that group I love so much. That's basically a group of women and we help each other. I lead the group and we help each other though. You know what? We all lead each other really, because it's a really amazing, amazing, powerful group. In reaching our goals and doing the things, we really celebrate each other and honor each other. It's never, it's not a bitch fest. You know what I mean? It's more of like that.
Is this a physical meeting or is this an online? I mean, like you're in the States, I'm in America. No, I'm not in America.
Yeah, you can meet from anywhere. You can meet from anywhere. And then I have a free Facebook group, which I just opened not too long ago, the Divine Feminine, which is exactly that, the Divine Feminine. So that's what I have going on currently. And then I always have like my private mentoring coaching that I do. So I don't offer anymore.
So the web address will be down in the description below. It's NecoleStephens.com. So that's Stephens with a PH and Necole spelt Necole, but you can see that from the title of the video down there. There's Thank you so much, Necole.
Thank
Will you come on and argue with me some more sometime?
Yes, I will. It was so much fun. Thank you.
Brilliant. Right. So, as ever, click that like button, press subscribe while you're at it, and do check out Nicole's website down below. And see you later, folks. So, as I said in the interview, I technically sort of agree. However, when you have statements like why are some people able to walk away from the tsunami and others wasn't, and it's a matter of vibration, it engenders an emotional sort of satanic panic Fox News response of think of the children. There are so many levels of which a person's vibration, their existence, is composed of. Now, I need to set a context for this. I'm setting the context as in I'm making the assumption time isn't real. All the metaphysicists will tell you that. From a level of maths, it's just another direction. It's just another vector. And certainly when you look into like the mathematics around black holes, where they're looking at the preservation of information as stuff is pulled into the event horizon. We are packets of information, whether we're saying that the physical world is a thing or simply in our own minds, you can still measure it as packets of information. In that information, there are our conscious beliefs, our attempts to raise our vibration if we are consciously aware of that process, and that's a really important factor. Not everyone is consciously aware of that, but there's the subconscious beliefs, there's unconscious beliefs, there's societal programming. I've made notes, can you tell I'm reading? There are limitations that have been imposed upon us physically, whether you're fully fit and able or whether you are considered by society to have a disability or another. There's only so fast any of us can run. And I maintain my position that the planets are bigger than us. Now, if it is, we experience all of our reality in the point of our own consciousness. However, as I said in the video, I think I'm an animist. All things are spirits, because how can they not be if we're all little bits of God? I've covered that in other videos. But that means that the planets are spirit as well, or spirits is another way of putting it. And if they want to do something, they are going to do something. So there's also the idea of, within astrology, you'll find the discussion between fate and free will. I'm a big believer in the Morai, that, the three sisters that are weaving our thread and measuring our thread and cutting our thread. There are certain things that you are going to face. Now, from that position of time's not real, when we are coming to incarnate here, people say we choose our own charts, or we choose the life that we're going to go into. So we will get confronted with this experience and that lesson, and that's what this bit of our soul needs, because theoretically we're doing this from a perspective where our soul doesn't actually need anything, but there's obviously a little bit of it that does. That's why we're here in the first place. And I think that if there is an earth change coming along, it's almost as if the universe or the guides or the higher powers are what's saying, yeah, you can incarnate there and you can face all of these sort of different things that you're looking for, but you do realize that this tsunami is coming, or you do realize that this historical event is coming, or this earthquake is coming, or this fire. And then our free will is, yeah, but the other lessons are worth it. So yeah, let's do it. So there's that aspect to it, and that is something that plays into that vibration if you're looking that we are in a place of co-creation, because this is what worries me about the law of attraction taken in isolation without other forms of spiritual teachings. What does this actually mean about the challenges that we face, the lessons that we learn, those growing times that are going to have some pain in them? Because we're working with our vibration, but you've got to remember that in terms of life experience, in terms of growing and evolving, it's okay to not be okay. I frequently refer to that point in the Course of Miracles, where consciousness has two states, okay and not okay. And if you're not okay, that's okay. Because it's that growing time, that changing time, and that is operating under that illusion of time. How do we know this? Why does giving birth hurt? There is always new things that can come out of pain, or at least when new things arrive, there is likely to be some pain, I think is a better way to put it. But there's a limit. I don't like saying that, but nevertheless, there is a limit to how much control you can have over your own personal vibration at a certain point, or any particular point within your life. The gurus, the teachings of Jesus, the teachings of the Buddha, they will all talk about the maintaining your own vibration, and that's all correct. But if Mother Earth wants to do something, Mother Earth is going to do it, and there is nothing that we can do to stop it. Because it also, what worries me about the law of attraction vibration argument, even though technically on a magical level, on the esoteric levels, yeah, I agree 100%. But there's that whole think of the children argument of those who don't, in their mortal incarnation, may not be aware of managing their own vibration. When you're a child, we look legally at a child to say, this age you are not responsible, and then obviously the day that one day terms, you are magically responsible. But can we really say that a baby or even a 10-year-old child is responsible or capable for managing their own vibration, because they have been specifically limited by the act of incarnating here? And that's the point of incarnating here, to have those limitations and to work against them, and that takes time to learn it. I mean, another way where this, using this philosophy as a catch-all, because I don't think it's untrue, I agree with it, but it's all about context. There's so many caveats. Because where does this leave? Let's go back to World War II, a huge event in Earth history. Where does this leave the plight of the Jews, the gypsies, the homosexuals? Were they all inviting what occurred by their own vibration? I would say no. No, not on your Nelly, no. However, they may well have incarnated, and the higher bits of self, bear in mind that time isn't real, the higher bits of self knew that this was coming and went, doesn't matter, we'll incarnate anyway, because there is some use for this identity, this soul, this little piece of the divine, whatever, of going through that process. Because again, all time's one, time isn't real, so it's just one life amongst many incarnations and many aspects of, to use the hippie term, multidimensional self. It's food for thought, because I was uncomfortable with that comment. I mean, I'm sat there, Necole is lovely, and I'm sat there smiling and nodding and being polite, and as I said in the interview, technically I agree, but I can't get rid of that whole think of the children aspect of the argument. It depends upon terms of perspective, but I don't like the idea of saying that people necessarily invite while incarnate, invite some of these experiences. You can't deny that some people invite certain experiences into their life by the way that they act, therefore managing their vibration, whichever way you want to term it. But there's others where that's not really quite so true. And to turn around and say, as a be all and end all philosophy, seems to me like it can be victim blaming. It's where does that leave people who are born with disabilities, who are born with genetic conditions, or are born in specific circumstances, when they may well have been born there with the long-term plan of overcoming or just learning to deal with and learning to manage with those whatever limitations they are facing, and finding out where even in that position there's somewhere where they don't experience limitations. It's just not as black and white as this. So this is why the title of the video down below is Dhee versus Necole, because we are going to continue to discuss these issues at length. As I've said, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.